Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive on elephants. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to learn some seriously cool stuff.
I think you're going to be amazed by what we uncover today. We'll be taking all our information from elephants, biology, habitat, behavior, and conservation, and trust me, it's packed with incredible insights.
Oh, I bet. Even just glancing at the contents, my mind's already buzzing with questions like, just how big are you? These incredible creatures. I mean, we say elephant and everyone pictures something big, but give me the real scope here.
Well, let's start with this. They're the largest land mammals on Earth, period. No contest.
Okay, that's definitely a starting point. But like, bigger than a car, bigger than a house. Help me picture it.
Think bigger than a basketball hoop. That's how tall African bush elephants can get.
Oh, okay, now that's a visual.
We're talking over 13 feet tall at the shoulder sometimes. And their weight, up to 13,000 pounds.
You're saying an elephant can weigh more than an SUV?
Some SUVs, yeah, absolutely.
Wow, okay, so African bush elephants are the heavyweights. What about Asian elephants?
A bit smaller, but still massive. Think like a large SUV. That's about the size we're talking.
Okay, so still incredibly impressive. But what always gets me is their trunks. I mean, 40,000 muscles. How is that even possible?
Right. It's just mind-blowing. That trunk isn't just for looks, you know? It's like the ultimate multi-tool.
Okay, I'm listening. Tell me all about it.
Well, elephants use their trunks for breathing, obviously, but also smelling, making those loud trumpet calls, drinking, grabbing food, practically everything.
So it's like a nose, a hand, and arm, all in one.
Exactly. And the level of control is insane. An elephant can uproot a whole tree with that trunk and then turn around and pick up a single blade of grass.
No way. That's like delicate surgery level precision.
It really is. And speaking of impressive body parts, we can't forget those tusks.
Oh yeah, those are serious business. Are they like teeth, weapons?
Right.
What's the deal with tusks?
So tusks are basically really, really long incisor teeth. They grow throughout an elephant's life. And yeah, they use them for all sorts of things. Digging, stripping bark off trees, defense.
Which is kind of sad, because those tusks have also made them a target for poachers.
It's true. The ivory trade is a huge threat, and we'll definitely talk about the conservation challenges later. But for now, let's shift gears to another amazing adaptation, those ears.
Okay, I've always wondered this. Why do African elephants have those huge fan-shaped ears, while Asian elephants have, like, smaller, rounder ones?
It all boils down to their environment. African elephants live in these really hot open areas, and those big ears act like giant radiators, helping them stay cool.
So they're literally using their ears to control their body temperature.
Yep. Blood vessels in their ears dilate, allowing heat to escape. Now, Asian elephants, on the other hand, live in cooler, more forested areas, so they don't need those massive ears for cooling down.
Fascinating. It's like evolution gave them exactly what they needed for their specific habitat. But what about their skin? It looks super tough. Are they basically bulletproof?
Their hide is seriously thick, like up to an inch. But here's the crazy part. They can actually get sunburned?
Wait, what? With skin that thick? How is that even possible?
Well, under that tough exterior, their skin is surprisingly sensitive. That's why those mud baths aren't just for fun. The mud acts like sunscreen and bug spray all rolled into one.
Makes sense. So, tough on the outside, but gotta protect that sensitive side. Now, this might seem like a weird question, but how can something so big move so quietly?
Ah, that's the beauty of their padded feet. They're like built-in shock absorbers, letting them move with surprising stealth. Super helpful for sneaking up on prey or avoiding predators themselves.
So basically, ninja elephants. Now, where do these amazing creatures actually live? What kind of places do they call home?
African elephants are pretty adaptable. You'll find them all across sub-Saharan Africa, from wide-open savannas to dense rainforests. They're true survivors.
And Asian elephants, where are their stomping grounds?
They're found in about 13 countries across South and Southeast Asia, mostly forests, grasslands, that sort of thing. Sadly, they're facing more and more habitat fragmentation because of, well, us humans.
Yeah, it's tough when your home is constantly shrinking. Speaking of survival, I know elephants are herbivores, but how much can they actually eat? I've heard they're like eating machines.
Oh, that's putting it mildly. To keep those massive bodies fueled, an elephant needs to eat somewhere between 300 and 600 pounds of vegetation every single day.
Whoa, that's like eating a whole refrigerator full of plants.
Pretty much. They graze on grasses, leaves, bark, fruits, roots, you name it. Oh, and don't forget water. They can drink up to 50 gallons a day.
So they're massive, have incredible adaptations, and they eat a ton. What about their social lives? Are they loners or do they live in groups?
Elephants are extremely social. They live in these tight-knit herds led by the oldest, wisest female. We call her the matriarch.
I love that. A true matriarchal society. Tell me more about that.
Well, these matriarchs, they're incredible leaders. They guide the herd to food and water, make decisions about migration, protect the young. They hold a wealth of knowledge.
It makes you wonder what kind of wisdom gets passed down through generations, right? What about the males? Where do they fit into this whole picture?
Young males stay with the herd till they hit adolescence. Then they usually strike out on their own or form these bachelor groups. They come back when it's time to mate.
Kind of like elephant college, and then off into the real world. But how do they actually communicate, especially across such long distances?
They've got a whole symphony of communication methods going on. Vocalizations like those rumbles and trumpets, but also body language like ear flapping and head shaking.
So they've got the whole nonverbal communication thing down pat.
Oh, and get this, they can even communicate through seismic signals.
Wait, seismic signals? You mean like talking through the ground?
Exactly. They stomp their feet or make these low rumbles that create vibrations that travel through the ground. Other elephants can feel those vibrations miles away.
That is seriously cool.
Mm.
Speaking of cool, we can't talk about elephants without talking about how smart they are. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Elephants are some of the most intelligent animals on the planet. They've got these big brains and cognitive abilities that rival primates.
So basically, they're the geniuses of the animal world.
Pretty much. And they show self-awareness. They can recognize themselves in a mirror. Plus, they're awesome problem solvers and incredibly empathetic.
Wow, empathy too. That's amazing. What about their memory? Is it true that elephants never forget?
Their memories are legendary, that's for sure. They can remember individuals, migration routes, even specific water sources, and not just for a little while, we're talking years.
Man, I wish my memory was that good. That long-distance memory must be a huge help for survival, especially in tough environments.
Definitely. It's like having a built-in GPS system. Speaking of long journeys, did you know that elephants have the longest gestation period of any mammal?
Okay, you've got my attention. How long are we talking?
Hold on your hat, 22 months.
Whoa, almost 2 years. That's longer than some college degrees.
It's a long haul, but when those calves finally arrive, they weigh somewhere between 200 and 250 pounds.
No kidding. That's like giving birth to a baby grand piano,
Correct.
and then the whole herd helps raise the little one. Right?
That's right. The calves nurse for up to 2 years and rely on their moms and the whole herd for protection and guidance.
It truly takes a village to raise an elephant. So we've covered their incredible physical traits, their social lives, and their intelligence. But what about their role in the bigger picture, the ecosystem? Why should we care about elephants beyond just how awesome they are?
That's a great question. And that's where the idea of keystone species comes in. They have a huge impact on their environment, way bigger than you might think.
Okay, keystone species. I've heard that term, but I'm not totally clear on what it means. Break it down for me.
Imagine an archway. The keystone is that wedge-shaped stone at the top, holding the whole thing together. Keystone species are like that. Without them, the whole ecosystem could collapse.
Gotcha. So how are elephants a keystone? What do they actually do?
They're like ecosystem engineers. They dig water holes that other animals use, they spread seeds through their dung, and even create open spaces in the forest that allow other plants to grow.
Wow, so they're shaping the landscape just by going about their lives?
Hmm.
But sadly, their future isn't exactly secure.
Right. Sadly, you're right. Despite their size and strength, elephants face a lot of threats. Habitat loss, human-wildlife conflict, and of course, that constant threat of poaching.
It's heartbreaking to think about these magnificent creatures being in such danger. Just how serious is the situation?
Both African bush elephants and African forest elephants are listed as either endangered or critically endangered, meaning they face a very high risk of disappearing from the wild.
That's really scary. And Asian elephants, are they in the same boat?
Sadly, yes. They're also listed as endangered. Habitat loss and poaching are huge problems.
It's heavy stuff to think about. But I'm really hoping there's some good news out there. Are there efforts being made to protect them?
Absolutely. There are people and organizations all over the world working tirelessly to help elephants. We'll dive into those conservation efforts in more detail in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll look at the people on the front lines, the amazing technology being used.
I'm really looking forward to learning more about that. Stay tuned for part 2, everyone.
Welcome back. I'm glad we're getting to dig into the more hopeful side of things.
Oh, me too. I mean, the threats facing elephants are definitely heavy stuff, but I'm really excited to hear about what's being done to help them. Where do we even begin? What's working?
Well, anti-poaching is a huge focus. It's like a real-life wildlife crime drama out there.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Organizations like the World Wildlife Fund, they're doing incredible work supporting these anti-poaching patrols, training rangers, and using some seriously high-tech tools to combat poaching.
Okay, like what? Please tell me there are elephant drones.
Oh, there are definitely drones involved. They're amazing for monitoring elephant populations and can even help catch poachers in the act.
That's amazing.
But it goes way beyond drones, too. Think DNA analysis to track ivory shipments, even AI that can predict poaching patterns.
Wow, so it's like we're using science and technology to fight for these animals.
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of protecting their habitats. I mean, habitat loss is a major threat, right?
Absolutely. I know as humans expand and develop land, we fragment elephant territories. What's being done to address that?
One of the key strategies is establishing protected areas, basically setting aside land where elephants can roam freely and safely.
That makes sense. But what about the areas that are already fragmented?
Well, that's where wildlife corridors come in. These are strips of land that connect fragmented habitats, allowing elephants to move between them and access the resources they need.
So it's like building bridges for elephants.
Pretty much. But it's not just about setting aside land either. We have to figure out ways for humans and elephants to coexist peacefully.
Yeah, I can imagine that can be a challenge.
It is. That's why community engagement is such a crucial part of elephant conservation. Conservation groups are working directly with communities living near elephants to reduce conflict and promote tolerance.
So it's about finding solutions that benefit both people and elephants.
Exactly, because if people can see the value in protecting elephants, they're much more likely to get on board. And that brings us to another really important piece of the puzzle, education.
Right. Education seems like it would play a huge role.
It's absolutely essential. Teaching people about elephant behavior, their importance to the ecosystem, the threats they face, it creates a more informed and compassionate public.
And a more informed public is more likely to support conservation efforts.
Exactly. And speaking of support, there's another interesting approach that's gaining traction, ecotourism.
Okay, I've heard of ecotourism, but how does that help elephants specifically?
Well, when it's done right, it can be a win-win situation for both elephants and local communities. Tourists get to experience elephants in their natural environment, and the revenue generated from that tourism goes towards supporting conservation efforts.
So people get an amazing experience, elephants get protection, and local communities benefit. Sounds like a good deal.
It's a model for sustainable conservation that can really make a difference. Now, you mentioned earlier being intrigued by elephant intelligence, and I think it's the perfect time to dive into that a little deeper.
Yes. Hit me with some more mind-blowing elephant facts.
All right, buckle up. So we know they're incredibly smart, but some of the things they do are just extraordinary. For instance, elephants are one of the very few animals that can recognize themselves in a mirror.
Wait, seriously, that's like self-awareness on a human level.
Exactly. It puts them in a very elite group alongside primates and dolphins. And then there's their memory, which, as we discussed, is absolutely legendary.
I'm still in awe of that. I mean, remembering routes and water sources after years, I can barely remember what I had for breakfast yesterday.
It's pretty remarkable, right? And get this, imagine you're standing next to an African bush elephant.
Okay, I'm picturing it. What happens next?
Well, not only would you be absolutely dwarfed by its size, but you'd also be experiencing the world through completely different sounds.
Okay, I'm all ears, no pun intended.
Elephants communicate using a whole range of sounds, some of which are way too low for humans to hear. These low-frequency rumbles actually travel through the ground as seismic waves.
Whoa, hold on. So they're like walking, talking earthquakes.
It's incredible, isn't it? These waves can travel for miles, allowing elephants to communicate over vast distances. It's like a secret underground communication network.
Okay, that is officially mind-blowing.
Okay.
I can't believe I'm just learning about this now.
And that's the beauty of exploring the natural world. There's always something new and amazing to discover. But this secret communication, it's just one piece of what makes elephants so special.
Okay, I'm ready for more. What else have you got?
Well, elephants have been woven into the tapestry of human history and culture for centuries. They're more than just animals, you know? They're symbols, they're storytellers, they're even ecosystem engineers, as we talked about.
You know, I've always been fascinated by the elephant-headed god, Ganesha, in Hinduism. What a powerful image. What about other cultures? Do elephants hold a special significance for them too?
Absolutely. They're deeply embedded in the traditions, folklore, and beliefs of many cultures, especially across Asia and Africa. They often symbolize wisdom, strength, power, and even divinity.
It makes me want to protect them even more, knowing they hold such a special place in human history.
I agree. Their presence in our stories, our art, our beliefs, it really speaks to that deep connection humans have with these magnificent creatures, a connection that transcends borders and cultures.
That's beautifully said. But speaking of human connection, there are also some difficult conversations we need to have, right? About our responsibility towards elephants,
Yeah.
the ethical considerations.
You're exactly right. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore those ethical questions surrounding our interactions with elephants, everything from tourism to captivity and beyond.
That's a conversation I'm definitely ready to have. Stay tuned, everyone, for the last part of our elephant deep dive, where we'll tackle these important and complex questions. And we're back for the final part of our elephant deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from their incredible biology to their intelligence, their social structures. But now it's time to talk about something really important, the ethical side of our relationship with elephants.
You're absolutely right. The more we learn about elephants, the more we have to think about how our actions impact them.
Right. And I think one of the biggest things that comes to mind is elephant tourism. It's a popular way for people to see these amazing animals up close, but there's so much debate around whether it's actually ethical or not.
Yeah, it's a really complex issue. On the one hand, responsible elephant tourism can bring in money that supports conservation efforts and helps local communities. But on the other hand, there's a real risk of exploitation if profit is put ahead of the elephant's well-being.
So how can we as travelers know the difference? What are some red flags to look out for?
A big one is any interaction where the elephants are forced to do things that are unnatural for them, like riding elephants, making them perform tricks, or keeping them in small, confined spaces.
Yeah, those things just sound wrong.
They are. Those practices can be incredibly harmful, both physically and mentally.
It's sad to think of these intelligent social animals being treated like that. So what are some good alternatives? If someone wants to see elephants in a way that's actually ethical and respectful, where should they go?
There are some amazing sanctuaries and rescue centers all over the world that provide a safe haven for elephants who have been rescued from abuse or exploitation.
Oh, wow. So these are places where the elephant's well-being comes first.
Absolutely. They focus on creating a natural environment for the elephants, letting them live in social groups, and giving them the specialized care they need.
That sounds much better.
And the great thing is, by visiting and supporting these sanctuaries, tourists are directly contributing to elephant welfare and conservation.
So it's a win-win. You get an amazing experience, and the elephants benefit too. Now, what about zoos? What are your thoughts on keeping elephants in captivity?
That's another area where we need to be really careful. Historically, zoos haven't always done a great job of meeting elephants' needs, especially when it comes to space, social interaction, and mental stimulation.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine these highly social animals thriving in a small enclosure.
Exactly. But the good news is that many zoos are recognizing this and making big changes. They're building larger, more natural habitats, encouraging social interaction among the elephants, and providing more enrichment activities to keep them stimulated.
So there's a move towards more ethical and humane practices.
Definitely. But it's an ongoing process, and we need to keep pushing for better standards. We also need to acknowledge that some species, like elephants, might just not be suited for captivity at all.
That's a hard truth, but probably a necessary one. There's one more ethical aspect I wanted to touch on, and it's something that ties into culture and tradition, the use of elephants in entertainment.
That's a sensitive topic, for sure, because we're talking about practices that are often deeply rooted in tradition.
Yeah, I'm thinking about things like elephant riding, elephant polo, even their use in festivals and religious processions.
Exactly. And while these traditions might be long-standing, that doesn't necessarily make them right, especially when they involve training methods that are cruel or force elephants into unnatural situations.
It's tough to reconcile those images with everything we've learned about elephant intelligence and their capacity for feeling emotions.
It really is. And I think it just goes to show that our understanding of animal welfare is always evolving. What might have been considered acceptable in the past, we might view very differently today.
So it's about being more aware, more compassionate. It's about questioning traditions and making sure they align with our values.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So after everything we've discussed, what can we as individuals do to make a real difference for elephants?
You know, there's actually a lot we can do. Supporting organizations working on elephant conservation is huge, and so is advocating for stronger laws to protect them. And when we travel, making ethical choices about where we go and what we do is really important too.
So it's about making informed choices in our daily lives and using our voices to speak up for these amazing animals.
Absolutely. Every little bit helps. If we learn more about elephants, share what we know, support ethical initiatives, and make compassionate choices, we can all help create a better future for them.
This has been such an incredible journey. We've really explored the world of elephants, their biology, their behavior, their intelligence, the threats they face, and the amazing work being done to protect them.
And I think it's important to remember that there's still hope. By working together with compassion and understanding, we can make sure that elephants continue to thrive for generations to come.
It's been a real eye-opener. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of elephants.